welcome to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is president and founder of Asset Preservation Tax and Retirement Services. Obviously, Stewart, today's show, we're going to be talking about, of course, the Secure Act, IRAs, target funds. But before we do any of that, tax season is over. So I have to ask you, how are you feeling? You've been so busy.
Well, I'll tell you this, thank goodness we have a good makeup person here, because you can't see the bags under my eyes. I was a walking zombie here during tax season. It was crazy, because just remember, this tax season, we compressed the period of time. You know, for the last 2 years, we've had until May 15th to be able to, you know, to do taxes and to have them all done. And this year we had one less month. And so, you know, it was crazy. It was really crazy. And so everything I said before about do not do planning during tax season, I stand by that now 120%, because I'm telling you, you know, when people are working 15-hour days, 6-7 days a week, it's really hard to get real planning done during the tax season. That should always be saved for, you know, give your accountants a month or two to breathe, to get their brain straight again, and then go from there. So I'm back, I'm alive. You know, this great drink here, my buddy Terrell Davis founded this company. He's you know, NFL Hall of Famer, MVP for the Super Bowl, unbelievable guy. But that's getting me waking up here. So it's a great a little plug. Might as well. I love the guy.
So great energy drink, wonderful makeup artist, and you are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yes,
we are ready to go.
Yep.
Well, let's dive in and talk a little bit about the Secure Act. What exactly is it? What did it change?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, I was actually part of the group of people that went back to Washington, D.C. In December of 2019. And, you know, let's flash back to what was going on in the world at that time. Cynthia, you know, we were going through, you know, the impeachment trial of President Trump, or the second one, I guess it was, right? Or was that the first one? That is the first one.
One of them.
You know, D.C. was crazy. But, you know, what we were trying to accomplish there, and you know, we had great meetings with both of our senators' staffs at the time. So we met with McSally's staff and Kirsten Sinema's staff. And quite honestly, you know, I went in there thinking this was right after the, you know, you know, Sinema had been, you know, pretty new to the Senate at that time. And we thought we were going to meet some pink tutu wearing crazy. And she wasn't. She was actually really great. You know, she's, you know, been a really nice moderate here, kind of down the center person. Her staff knows, you know, the people really well of Arizona. You know, they really have their finger on the heartbeat of America. We also met with a few of our Congress people, Debbie Lesko, Dave Schweikert, and then Andy Biggs down in Chandler Gilbert area. Their staff is absolutely amazing, and Mr. Schweikert is brilliant in finance, and I don't know that he gets enough credit for that. So I'm really complimenting both sides of the aisle. I'm, you know, kind of a centrist myself. I'm a Berkeley-educated moderate Republican, if anybody ever wonders where I'm coming from. But the Secure Act, the point of the Secure Act originally was just to delay required minimum distributions. You know, we wanted to delay it from 70 and a half to 72. And the point of that is people are living longer. They want to be able to do real planning. So, you know, some people just didn't want to have to take it. And we actually got it done. We got that. You know, what I would call the very far left wanted was to be able to, you know, compress the time that beneficiaries had to take their RMDs or their distributions once they were gone. So historically, Cynthia, what people were able to do is that when you passed away, your non-spouse beneficiaries would be able to take their required minimum distributions over their lifetime and do what we call a stretch IRA. Well, now the stretch IRA is dead. So a lot of the planning that we've done at Asset Preservation has come, you know, front and foremost here, where people really realize they need to do the plan, because what the Secure Act did that we didn't intend for it to do or didn't want for it to do is now they have to take these 10-year distributions. The money has to be exhausted within 10 years.
Wow.
So if you've done your job, you've put your money away tax deferred, and you figured, hey, when I'm gone, my kids will just spread it out between 2 or 3 of them over their lifetimes. That's no longer the case. Non-spouse beneficiaries now have to have that exhausted within 10 years. And so it's really compressed the amount of time. It's no longer their entire life.
Yeah.
So it can create some real tax consequence.
Sure.
And the reality is that most people realize, and I've said this, almost every show, we are in the most efficient tax window in history right now. If you don't do your planning now and take advantage of this year, you're going to really miss out because, all the Trump tax cuts, whether you love Trump or hate Trump, don't care, those tax cuts are going to end at the end of 2025 if Congress doesn't make any changes. And we think it's going to be a tough, uphill battle with all of the stimulus dollars. Someone's got to pay for all these stimulus checks that we've been doing, right?
Sure.
All of the different, stimulus, programs we have, trillions of dollars. Somebody has to pay for that. So it's a really big issue. And quite honestly, the IRS just came out with an additional ruling on these RMDs for inherited IRAs. So before we realized that, hey, this has to be exhausted within 10 years, the fear that we had at that time was that people would just wait and wait and wait, not take them. And then on that 10th year, they have to take 100% distribution, right? So talking about tax time bombs,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it could be really, really painful.
Sure.
Right? Well, the IRS just came out, and honestly, I think they made it worse. They now have this new rule called the concurrent life expectancy, which I don't know what that really means. It's kind of a combination of the beneficiary's age and the age of the deceased person. And basically, they now have to take these RMDs over the next 10 years. But that RMD doesn't exhaust it fully by the 10th year. So once again, people will be taking RMDs thinking, hey, I'm taking when I have to, and they get this massive balloon payment that's taxable at the end of it, which is why it's really important to think through, does it make sense to start doing that tax planning now rather than dumping this massive tax burden onto your heirs? Even if you're doing it with your spouse, for example, even though they don't have the 10-year expectancy, you're now going from being a married filing jointly to a single filer, or you're going to pass that off to your kids where they're typically at their peak earning years by the time you pass it. So I just say it's really important to have a plan, really think it through. The Secure Act really added some mess to the table here, and it's getting worse. The IRS kind of jumped on it and made it even worse.
Absolutely. And Stuart, I know we're going to take a break, obviously, in about a minute, but is there anything that a Roth can do to help offset that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when it comes to tax planning, what the Roth is going to do is allow you to, pay taxes at your discretion, at your choice, not being forced to by the government. And so if you can get out ahead of it, ahead of time, we can really create a plan. And as we head into commercial break, what I think it's time for you guys to do today is take action. If you think you need a plan, if you've built up these big IRAs and you know you need help and your current advisor isn't giving you advice on how to make it easier for the next generation or even for yourself, what I think you should do is pick up the phone, click on that QR code that's on your screen right now. That'll take you to our website, to apsitaxes.com. You can sign up for a complimentary portfolio review. And what we're going to offer in that complimentary portfolio review is we're going to take a look at what kind of risks you're taking in your portfolio. What kind of fees are you paying? And most importantly, what kind of taxes are looming in the background there? What can we do to make you more efficient in the most efficient tax window in history, which is right now, and it's going away? Give us a call at 833-652-7829 or pick up your phone and click on that QR code, and we'd be glad to help.
Stuart, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 833-652-7829. As Stuart mentioned, there's also the QR code in the corner of your screen. Go ahead and click on that. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, I'm going to ask Stuart about what happens if you miss your RMDs. Is there a penalty involved? Stay tuned. You're going to want to hear what his answer would be.
What happens oftentimes is we'll run into clients or potential clients that have saved all this money, but they're 75, 80 years old. They've got this big pile of money, but they're not enjoying retirement because they're so worried about running out of money that they never actually get to enjoy their life's work. And so to me, it's really rewarding to be able to create a plan so that these people can have a great time in retirement knowing that they're not going to run out, that they're going to be fine, I think it brings a smile to their face.
We get a lot of different people at a lot of different stages in their lives. And what we're able to do is, for some folks, it's able to tell them that you're on track. Keep doing what you're doing, and 15 years from now, you'll be retired and enjoying life the way you want it to be. For some people, it's people coming in and they're 3 to 5 years away from retirement, and you're able to tell them that, 5 years, 3 years, tomorrow, you're ready to go.
We are a complete shop. We handle estate planning, taxes, financial planning. We do a really in-depth cash flow analysis that is way more detailed than you'll see in the market.
Everything all in one spot, with the left hand always knowing what the right hand's doing. Because it's not just about the investments, but how's that going to affect your taxes? It's not where are you going to be 5 years from now, 15 years from now. And it's that back and forth full view of what the clients, not only today, but tomorrow and their legacy down the road is going to be, that really sets us apart.
And welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is president and founder of Asset Preservation Tax and Retirement Services. Stewart, a great first segment that we had of the show today, talking about such important topics always surrounding retirement, of course. But in this segment, I want to ask you, people are so busy. They're going for their day-to-day lives, their careers, what have you. What happens if you forget to take your RMDs?
Well, it's a tremendous penalty historically. It's a 50% penalty. So, we have a lot of clients when we're doing our Social Security planning or tax planning, they'll say, all right, I'll just skip it this year. Well, if you skip it, historically, it's a 50% penalty. So, let's say, for example, you have $1 million IRA and you're supposed to take $45,000, 4.5% from your IRA. Well, of course, we know you have to pay tax on that as you withdraw it. And if you just decide not to take it, if your withdrawal was supposed to be $45,000, your tax is going to be half of that. What's that? $22,500.
Yeah.
But actually, there's been some new guidelines here very recently that allows you to say if it was a reasonable error that you can get those waived now. So that's new news that just got released here over the last few days here. So if you are paying that penalty, if you just filed your taxes, for 2021's taxes, and you had to pay a penalty for your missed RMDs, take a look at that. If you realize that you missed it, there is now a reasonable error allowance or waiver form that you can do. So double check that. If you've paid that penalty, check it out.
All right, Stewart, thank you so much. Let me ask you, let's talk a little bit about target date funds. What are they and how do they fit inside someone's portfolio? Yeah,
so target date funds are really, really interesting. They were originally created in the 90s, not for retirement funds, but they were actually originally intended for college planning. And Barclays did a great job of creating these, these plans to kind of just say, hey, when you're going to enter college or you need to start funding school or whatever it was, that they would become more conservative as they approached that date. And honestly, they've been really, really good here, for the last, 25 years.
Yeah.
The problem is that what they've done is, they haven't adapted to the time. So basically what they've done is said as you're further away from, this target date, they will have more equities and less bonds and less fixed positions. And as you approach this date, they get more and more weighted towards what they would historically call safety, and that was in the form of bonds. But as most people know that I've talked about on the show week after week, is that bonds are no longer that kind of immune asset. That very safe asset. Just remember, for 35 years, we've been in this, lowering interest rate environment from the 80s, down to, last year. Interest rates have fallen consistently, methodically for 35 years. Well, now we're seeing this massive interest rate spike, from the lows of COVID to now. We've seen interest rates more than double from that point. And so now that we have the Federal Reserve come out and say, hey, we're going to have instead of 4 hikes, we're going to have 5 hikes, and it's not going to be 25 basis points or 1/4%. It's going to be 3/4%. That's why we're seeing all this turmoil in the market. So it's going to add pressure not only to the stock market and to the housing market, but also to the bond market, which comprises a lot of these historical, target date funds. So I think the issue with target date funds is they're a bit dated, so to speak, no pun intended. And, also what we've seen is that target date funds have become this big, profit center. A lot of people that created it, when Barclays originally created it, love Barclays, amazing company. They do really cool stuff. I know one of their chief, actuaries over there that's brilliant. They have a brilliant staff. But what they've done is they've created this industry where now everybody has a target date fund. And what people are doing is they're comparing one target date fund to a next. And hey, what does your 2025 fund do in performance compared to, this other company? Well, so now they're starting to chase yield. And when you start chasing yield, you're starting to add more risk to it, right, as people need less risk. So I think there's some conflicted, positions in there. And I think as a fiduciary, I just want to eliminate all of those sort of conflicts, right? We want to make sure that, we're on the right track.
Sure. Well, a lot of our viewers, of course, are entering retirement. So how can people mitigate the risk, if you will?
Well, so rather than being in target date funds, we say be in a target date portfolio. And what we mean by that is basically to make sure that you're, it's not a set it and forget about it kind of thing. As you get closer to retirement, it may make sense to take some chips off the table. I use this analogy all the time. My son was in motorsports, and he was, one of the best drivers in America at the time. And these kids, they would travel all around the country. They'd win this race, and he used to race go-karts, right? He'd win a race, or they'd win a race, and then on their victory lap, they were showing off, and they crash your car, showing off in front of the crowd.
Oh, boy.
Here's the thing, Cynthia. Most of my clients that come to me, they've done their job. They've put their money away. They've done everything they were supposed to do, but they have to realize they've already won the race. Don't crash your car on the victory lap. We are in historic volatility. We're in a crazy rising interest rate environment. Stock market is at relatively all-time highs. You need to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right? So a gambler thing.
Yeah.
Don't show off on your victory lap. You've already won the race. Take some chips off the table. Figure it out.
Absolutely. So again, it's about just not having that risk in your retirement. You want to have confidence, you want to have peace of mind and clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I just say this, if you need help, if you're concerned about what kind of risk you're taking, some of the old classical asset allocation portfolios that people have relied on in the past just aren't working. They're no longer valid in today's market.
Kind of like the 60-40, if you will.
Yeah, great point. The 60-40 has been a really good thing. A lot of people, 60% equities, 40% bonds, with or without a target date. That's always been a historically good thing. For 35 years, it's been amazing. But once again, does it really make sense to expose 40% of your portfolio to a bond portfolio in a rising interest rate environment that is very likely to lose money?
Sure.
I would say not. I think there's better alternatives to that.
Well, Stewart, I know you have a very special offer to present to the viewers at home today. Let's talk about what that is before we open the phone lines.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're offering today is to take a look. Are you exposed with target date funds that no longer fit your risk tolerance? Do you have a 60-40 portfolio that may no longer, be valid for your retirement goals? If you think you need help, if you think that you want a second opinion to take a look at what kind of risks you're taking, what kind of fees you're paying, and what kind of tax implications are hiding in your portfolio, pick up your phone right now, click on that QR code. There's a quick questionnaire on apsitaxes.com on our complimentary portfolio review button. You just click that. It'll take you to our website. We'd be glad to help. Or give us a call at 833-652-7829. A lot of people say, hey, you know what? The show's on at this time. There's no way they're going to answer their phone on the weekend. Well, guess what? We have operators standing by right now to handle your calls. pick up the phone, give us a call, set an appointment. We'd be glad to help.
Stuart, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 833-652-7829. Any questions that you may have about planning your perfect retirement, Stuart has the answers for you. In our next segment, we're going to talk about if you are a widow, why should you be meeting with a financial advisor before you take your Social Security benefits? Please stay tuned.
This is the story of how you get from here to there. Right now you're here, but in the future, you want to be there. And from here, there looks pretty good. But so few get to there. Why? Well, of those who do make it, some will have luck, but most will have a strategy. They will save and invest, grow and protect, and they will work with advisors who will help guide their way. If you're looking to get somewhere, to get there, we know how to set a course. It's what we do, and we do it well. We're investment specialists, retirement advisors, insurance experts, and financial planners. We have innovative wealth tracking tools to monitor your progress every step of the way. Wherever you are now, we can help you get to where you want to be. The road between here to there is shorter for those who know the way.
And welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is founder and president of Asset Preservation Tax and Retirement Services. Stewart, a very important segment that we have right now, something that we haven't talked about before. Obviously, if some of the viewers are in the audience today, and let's say that they've lost a spouse, they're a widow, why should they meet with a financial advisor specifically before taking their Social Security benefits?
You know, that's a great question. You know, quite honestly, it's actually really important to make sure you have someone you can rely on to be able to answer questions. And, you know, I have clients all the time that'll come in to see me, a husband and wife, and, you know, the husband has been self-managed, you know, for years, and he realizes, man, this monster of a portfolio he's putting together, his spouse, or, you know, even sometimes the female is the one that handles the finances, and the man just kind of sits back. And I'm not making a, you know, which spouse it is, but basically oftentimes one spouse is the one that handles the investments, handles all of these decisions.
Absolutely.
And the survivor may not have any experience with finance whatsoever, and they're lost. And so I've actually seen a recent influx of people that come in where they're coming in to test out whether we want to be the firm they can rely on when one of them is gone. You know, it's an interesting thing. And, you know, quite honestly, right now is not the right time for everybody to, you know, to become a client of asset preservation. But you know what they're doing is they're testing us out for the future to say, hey, you know what? If something ever happens to me, make sure you call Stewart and his team, because we know they're the people we want there just in case. For example, when you asked about the widow's benefits for Social Security, I think it's really important for people to really know what their benefits are. You know, oftentimes we just hear crazy conflicted advice from the Social Security office, and listen, they're trying their hardest, but you know, back when their office was actually opened, you know, before COVID, we used to hold these big Social Security seminars, and we'd advise people on different filing strategies, widows' benefits, etc. And honestly, if you went to one window, you'd get one piece of advice. If you went to the other window, you'd get the other. And so when people are conflicted, they'd say, hey, Stewart, man, they're telling me what you said in your workshop just isn't true. They said it wasn't true. So I'd go with them to the Social Security office. We have one in, you know, we have our West Valley office. We used to go to the Social Security office right off of Kings there. And, you know, I'd sit in line, you know, right as they opened for an hour or two beforehand, get some work done. And we would straighten it out. They'd usually have to pull out a manager to clarify in front of the client that what we were saying is accurate. But it's really important, the decisions you make, and to make sure you have real advice from a fiduciary that really understands the Social Security, you know, program. For example, you know, widow's benefits. We had a client that came in, and, you know, she was married for 10 years. Her husband died, you know, like 20 years ago. And, you know, she was 67 years old, she was. And her husband died when she was 60. Well, what she didn't realize is that she could actually start taking widow benefits or survivor benefits when she was 60 years old. Now, sometimes that makes sense and sometimes it doesn't, because the penalty still applies if you're taking your benefit before full retirement age and you're working. But remember, she was 67. So she could have taken that benefit for the last year with no penalty whatsoever. And if you take it before your full retirement age, and remember, the benefit isn't based on the deceased person's age. It's based on the age of the survivor. So if you take it before full retirement age, there's what they call an actuarial reduction. So you were going to take a reduced value. So if you're taking it at 60, you're only getting like 72% of your benefit. So does it make sense to take 70 or 72% of your benefit if you're also going to get penalized? Because remember, you can only make right around $18,000 a year of earned income, and for every $2 you exceed that number, there's a $1 reduction in your benefit. So does it make sense to, to take that penalty and only get 72% of it? Probably not. It depends on whether you're working or not. But once you're full retirement age, I think it's really important to have an advisor really guide you through whether or not it makes sense to file for your spousal benefit. Because remember, if you delay your spousal benefit as a widow past full retirement age, you do not get delayed retirement credits. You don't get that 8% credit that you get with normal Social Security.
Wow.
So one of the strategies works out this way. You take your survivor benefit at full retirement age, 66, 66 and a half, whatever your age is, and then you wait until 70. You take that till 70 to take yours, and generally you're getting 132% of your benefit by age 70. So we can turn yours on later. But literally, this added in, an extra $150,000 of income to this lady's life that she didn't even know she had.
Wow.
So if this applies to you, if you think this applies to you, reach out to us. Pick up your phone. If you don't take action today, you're never going to take action. People watch this for a year or two and they say, you know what, we've been watching your show, for a year and we just decided to call. Why did you wait so long? I don't know. We wanted to get to know you. Well, this is me. Pick up your phone, click on the QR code, or give us a call at 833-652-7829. If you have concerns about Social Security or any other financial planning need and you think that we may be a good fit, just reach out, take action. We have operators standing by to take your message now, even on the weekend.
Stewart, thank you so much for another amazing episode this week. To the viewers at home, most specifically, we'd like to thank you for spending time with us again today. That number is 833-652-7829. Any questions that you may have about planning your perfect retirement, Stewart has the answers for you. All you have to do is call in today or click on the QR code at the bottom of your screen. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to seeing you back here 1 week from today. Take care now.